Welcome again. I'm finishing up this little town that I called Akka, kind of blown apart in ruins. It's become a little bigger than my original map that I drew years ago, but otherwise, that's about it. I think we're through with that. I've introduced a little bit of different types of buildings and tents and hovels within it, these different geometries. It's pretty simple. I think it's pretty fun to make. I'll just turn off my tool and downsize the Rhino window and jump back into Grasshopper and show you how I added to that script. The script isn't too huge. And it basically works by, I've got multiple terrains on underneath that I kind of like. Just pull this down here. Hopefully I won't be in the way too much. And we'll just hide everything and go into something like shaded. And you can see how this script, I started by building that little flag. I'm just going to put this all on. Yeah, there's where you can see kind of everything's coming about. And you can just keep pushing things in and out. The ground plane's not so interesting to look at, even though I've got a pretty good furrowed pattern there. I like it. It's 3 planes stacked, so you could really layer them with glazing and glass and plastics and anything transparent. So you can get this really cool rendering by doing multiple ones of those, and they're all a little different. So that's kind of nice, and that's that bottom script that I've used time and time again. I just keep coming back to it as a great surface edit. Anyway, it's in most of the scripts. The other thing outside of the flag, we saw how we went through and built a geometry on the first half of this Akka, where it leaves some openings. Well, what I added to that was the original script, is I decided to make let's see if I take that off. Yeah, you can see that I decided to write a little script that was based on that one that went in and found curves. What was nice here was I realized I could actually do that which was inside and find curves that were inside. And in doing so, that remained to grab the curves on the outside. So I thought they would be cool to use as kind of doors. So with the information of what built the walls, and we went through that script, I decided to use the inside information to pull in and move and find endpoints on these curves, build lines between them, and treat them as kind of sliding or thickening doors. And yeah, I lofted between them very subtly, and then I extruded them. So you have full control over putting in these barricades that could be there, or they can disappear, or they can be moved or adjusted a little bit. So I thought that was kind of interesting to add that in. They're not, they'll disappear totally if they don't have any mass. And that's it. And they're all kind of parametric back to the original structure. So if the structure changes, obviously that'll change. So that's been kind of interesting to play off of that. And then I thought, well, let's populate it a little bit. And really all I needed for the population was a dispatch from the original script, the dispatch of the original polygons. So let's go on here and say, okay, those are the original polygons. What happens if I just grab, half of them? What if I just grab, every other one and turn it into a surface? And then take that apart. And what I did was said, okay, here's populating it by dividing it in different sections, and then having an MD slider that can evaluate that, which would change where this point exists in a reparametized surface. So I could build a surface within there. And obviously it doesn't work for everything, but you can see this one's just building a weird kind of area within that square area I had. And so once you have that information of where you want to go, I scaled it a little bigger because I was having trouble with the points on it, but I'm evaluating the surface using the centroid, and I'm finding projecting those points onto that surface. So depending on how big that surface becomes, it's a list item of the vertices paired with the centroid of the surface. So then I can build a surface that kind of changes, and you'll see this if I start to play off of it. I do it twice. Basically, if I move that point up to B, I'm going to get a different surface, and as I play with my MD slider, it's going to pull that in and out. And it's finding kind of a ground plane to tell me if I can project my points onto it. And sometimes, even though I got to have it in the Z direction, it projects up in the air, and I might end up with a point floating. And then I put a little tiny rep on there, a little mesh on there that I can change the radius and change the V count to give different shapes of tents and structures. And they're kind of random as they pop throughout that surface, depending on the surface, but then they can become something that's populating different areas, usually on the inside of that structure and inside whatever keep or courtyard. I then set it up again with just a cut and paste. I could have probably done it as different sets of lists, but I kind of like to be over here looking at what else is there. So the scale of those, you might want to change the shape down to something simple for another kind of populated tent, kind of as a caste system or whatever. They can overlap. They can even encompass and go into the walls. But it's just to provide some interest, and you can see as I play with that, that's the scale factor of the outer surface. So that's not really worth playing with. But if you're doing this and you're not getting anything, and I'll just have to keep that blue so I can see what the influence of this script is. Start to populate, and you see once in a while one jumps up on top. But you get these kind of armies and phalanxes, and you can see there I'm getting almost all the way through to a nice militant pattern of tents. Whereas the other one now maybe doesn't make as much sense. So I might upsize the scale of that radius on these ones and see if I can disperse them around a little bit. Well, that's too much. Maybe I'll just put in one or two or a few within the center of that. So you've got a kind of fortified, busted open city taken over by brigands and whatever you want to imagine. Kind of cool. It's probably easiest to just grab all of those and send it to a bake, which will take a second. There we go. And obviously, if I pull up, I like to swap for a second to see what kind of chaos I have going on there. I think it's best to just leave that off. Leave this and probably just pull up another one of these, put on a bake on one of those. And you don't have to group them because 3 are baked, so I could grab one surface and say, okay, I don't need that. I don't need that. And now I have one little surface that's in there. And then once you have everything in this tool, and I'm going to go here and just save my file again. I'm going to get rid of Grasshopper, open this up, and have fun with the script. Going to my render. My ground plane's fine. I think the colors are fine. I've got a plaster on there. Maybe I could take it up into a deeper purple. Be kind of ugly, but we'll see. I could take this structure, go into my materials, and I thought I had a lot of materials there. No, I'm adding them on. I'm just going to add, I wonder what's grabbing everything. Oh, because I grouped everything. Yeah, that's a problem. Well, let's just do something simple and just grab a glassy blue for everything. And then take it into a render, see if we can get it kind of centered how we like it. Kind of weird scape like that. That's kind of weird snowy ice scape with these odd walls. You could always get up and underneath these things, and I find it's kind of nice to play right off the horizon and what's there. But then again, I do want to show that it's been generated. It's got a strange opening. Once you've got it set how you like it, the colors in the background, and you're good at navigating, and you get a little shot like that. I'm not too interested because I'd rather have it a little longer. But I've got it in draft quality, 300 dpi. There's no sun, or there's a skylight on it that's going to slow it down, so I'm going to take that off. And I'm going to pop it to just a pretty fast draft render and see what pops up. See how long that takes and see if I kind of like it. And I usually zoom in here, like there's a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's nice to go in and see what a 10-to-1 ratio is going to look at on a draft. And it's rendering pretty quick. I try to keep my renders, I wouldn't want anything over 15 minutes. It'd be too much waiting time. And I do know Blender's got some pretty awesome stuff that I haven't wrapped my head around that can kind of make these things last a lot longer. But I don't mind kind of having off time while I'm waiting for a render. Anyhow, sorry to bore you with that. 9 minutes. I'll just give you my whole screenshot. That's it. Let's just tuck away that render and wait for it. All right.